Hey coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. And today we're going to look at some nickels from the United States from 1975. We have the Philadelphia Mint up here and the Denver Mint down here, and we're going to just kind of look through them. Let's gather all these up, and let me talk to you about something that I got an email on, and somebody actually brought this to me, and they said I've got a 1988 Clad nickel. In other words, they're saying that this nickel was put on a Clad stock, and I said, okay, well, let me take a look at it. And so it's pretty dark nickel. If you look here, you see some scratches. It looks like if you see some scratches, you can actually see the nickel underneath. But on one of the coins that was made, but it was in 1987, they made a Clad nickel, and I think there's 10 or less of them available, and they actually put the nickel on top of a copper center. And so the easiest thing to do with that, if you've got a scale, is don't even mess with trying to clean it or do anything with it. Just bring your scale in. And the 1987 that was put on a Clad weighed 4.11 grams. So let's just get our scale out. And we'll put it right on there. And we see that it weighs 5.03 to 5.05 grams. So this isn't a Clad one because it wouldn't weigh the same amount if it was 75% copper and 25% nickel. It would not weigh 5 grams. So this one that they brought me, the 1988P, first off, it was in 1987 is the year that they know they did the Clad, and second off, it weighs too much. So if you are looking for the 1987 Clad P, there are some out there, and you might find them in pocket change, and what you do is you tip them up and look on the side, and if it's dark on the side, it might be one, but it has to be 1987, and it has to be 4.11 grams, because that's the Clad Ps actually weigh differently because the Clad Ps don't have as much nickel in them. Now that's an interesting idea anyway, is how much nickel is in a nickel. And it turns out that there's only 25% nickel in a US nickel. In other words, it's a 25% nickel, 75% copper mix. And they just blend it all together. So you look at this Jefferson nickel, and Jefferson's facing to the left, says, "In God we trust," in front of his face. Liberty, a star here, in 1975 behind him. And then down here, you can see very clearly on this one, the FS, and that's for Felix Schlag, who was the designer, engraver of this coin, which first came out in 1938. On this side, we see that there's no mint mark here by the 5, so that's a Philadelphia one. And on this side, we see there is a D there by the 5, and so that means it's a Denver Mint. At the Philadelphia Mint in 1975, they didn't make a lot. They only made 182 million, essentially. At the Denver Mint, they made 402 million. So they made more than twice as many at the Denver Mint as they made at the Philadelphia Mint. And now let's get those a little smaller. If you turn these over into the back, of course, they're both going to be the same on the back. There's no identifying characteristics that are different in Denver than in Philadelphia on these. One of the things you always look at for nickels, if you want to look for quality, is how many steps can you see. In this one, I think we can see about 3 steps or 4 steps on the edge, but you can't see any in the middle. On this one, you can see, some places you can see, well, you see 4 steps and a scratch here, but what you want to be able to do is see these these steps going all the way across. And that's how you determine the quality of the nickel when they do the full steps. When they talk about full steps, it's these steps here. There are, the top of these say Pluribus Unum, then it says Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. Now there are some versions of these that they sell as error coins that are not really considered error coins. They're just problems with the mint process. So once in a while you'll find like Monticello, the middle, the I and the C and E here don't come through, and that's usually because there's some kind of fluid on top of the mint process. So when they stamped it, the fluid got in the way. Those usually aren't worth anything at all except as a curiosity. Now, there is something interesting about these nickels, and you can almost tell that they kind of rushed through them at the Denver Mint. Now, this is a point at which they were stamping them, and you see this one, it's supposed to be a D, but look how deep they stamped it in there. I mean, it's like they crushed this one. You can actually see an indentation from where they hit the D so hard. But that D didn't come out good. But they put it out anyway. This one here is another Denver Mint one. Much better D. It's the same letter, but you see how this one didn't impact quite as much. You can still see a little impact site there, but the D didn't go in quite as much. And then let's get this one all the way around to where the D is. And we'll see that this one, again, so we got three different kind of D's here. This one, unless you knew it was a D, it would be hard to tell. This one, these two, you can tell they're D's. This one has some opening in the center. This one has smushed up from the bottom. None of these coins have any real value. If you are looking for a really valuable 1975 nickel, what you have to do is just get the huge quality ones, the ones that don't have any wear on them at all. There are some MS65 and up that start to be worth money. But the MS65, honestly, are only worth $20 to $40. If you can get a mint state, that's what MS stands for, mint state 66, you start getting into the hundreds. If you can get a mint state 67 or 67 plus, that would be into the thousands. How can you tell it? Well, it's going to be really shiny. It's going to look like nobody's ever touched it. If you put your pen on the top of it, you'll be able to see your pen in it. You don't want to touch it. If you do have one that's really shiny, just keep your fingers off it. You'll be able to turn it over and you'll be able to see all the steps going all the way across. You'll be able to see down here where the windows are and all the other little porticos up here and all the other stuff, if it's a really valuable one. If it is that valuable, you're going to have to get it graded at a grading service. There's a number of grading services. One of the ones that we use just to look up stuff online often is the PCGS, but there are other grading services that do really good work. So if you want to figure out what your coin's valued at, you're probably going to have to send it into a grading service and pay them to grade it. And that's the ones you sometimes see in the plastic envelope, colored plastic envelope, plastic container at the coin store. Those are the ones that have been graded, and you'll be able to see right on the top of them what company did it and what their grading is. All right, that's all we have today from DC Cornwall International Coin Channel. This is our copper nickel nickels. So even though they're 75% copper, we still call them nickels. We'd love to have you subscribe to our channel and leave any comments you might have in the comments section.